Is it 7 o'clock?
That says 58. I don't know.
Okay, so we got a couple minutes yet till 7, and this is saying 6:59, so we'll start right at 7. Wait a minute or so. Nice to see the sun today, instead of that snow.
Yeah. I got up yesterday morning and I said, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it was really coming down for a while.
See, the village looks nice. I took a little ride, DJ, the park looks nice.
Mhm.
Hey, you guys ever go
The house is all, everybody's taking care of the house.
Morningside? There's a family at Black
Yeah.
Squirrel.
I forgot. I was just looking
I don't know
around,
if you
so
see
I get a
Black
little more
Squirrel.
familiar with the street.
There's a family there.
Yeah, there's some over by my mom and
Big
dad.
lots.
Is there?
All of a sudden, yeah, that's girls.
Okay, let me see what my, this says 7 o'clock here, I know that one's always, okay, it's 7 o'clock. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Walton Hills Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 7 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following Substitute House Bill 197, provisions that relate to public meetings and hearings during this COVID-19 pandemic. Roll call?
Councilperson Linville,
Present.
Brenner Miller,
Here.
Allen,
Here.
Terlowski, Whedon,
Here.
Spitznagel.
Here.
All council members present, along with our fiscal officer, our tax administrator, and our law director. Our fiscal officer, Katie Iconis, our tax administrator, Angela Revere, and our law director, John Montello. We do have on the agenda comments related to the agenda items for any residents or anybody that's on our YouTube page right now. If there's any comments, they can present them. They can also present comments as we go through the meeting related to the agenda, and we will try to answer all the questions that are related to the agenda to the best of our ability. And Angela will let us know as we go and stuff. So as residents viewing the meeting, try to get your questions in if you have them, and we'll read them and try to answer them as they're related to this agenda. Item number 4 is the Recreation Community Life Director position. As everybody knows, Carol Stanizik, who's still on during the transition, is retiring, and so we did put out put the position out there to find somebody. And tonight we do have Lori Sprague from Your Partner in HR, our HR consultant. I just wanted her to go through the process, where we're at with that, and if there's any questions, we can talk about that. We did have an executive session last meeting relating to that, specifically that position. So we have been having discussions on that. And tonight we do have on the agenda to, there's a contract to fulfill the remaining part of the contract, the void from our Recreation Community Life Director that's retiring. And so we have that on the agenda. That will be part of the special council meeting tonight. So this is some discussion, if anybody has some questions. And there's some other HR things Lori's just going to fill you in, or if anybody has any questions. So I'm going to grab Lori right now. John, if you're okay, definitely. Meeting. Lori, do you want to join us? Lori, so I let everybody know, we're gonna, if there's any questions on the position, or you can kind of tell us how we got to Natalie Buck, who is on the agenda for the special council meeting, is in this resolution that we're gonna talk about. And then if you want to just talk about maybe the training we have coming up, how that's going to be a little different than what we had before due to the pandemic.
Sure. So, as you all know, there's a recreation and community life director position available with the resignation of Carol. We posted it on Indeed and received 57 resumes. I screened those resumes for the people who met the minimum requirements. I phone screened, so I phone screened 8 people. Some of them just didn't do well in the interview. Others thought it was a part-time position they could come and go rather than being a consistent part-time position. We landed on Natalie Buck, who has all of the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job. She has 13 years of experience as a community life director over at the City of Independence. We reached out to, she interviewed with myself, Don, Carol, and Carlene. We all thought highly of her. We reached out to 7 references that she provided, including a former mayor that she worked with, including people who worked for her, as well as the HR director that hired her into the City of Independence. At this point, she has tested and does meet all the requirements of the village, and we're ready to move forward with her hire. She has formally accepted the offer through an offer letter on May 1st and is waiting for the outcome of this meeting. Does anyone have any questions on that?
And just to comment on that, you all council received that documentation, that letter and stuff. So,
Okay.
No, anybody have any questions, or? Okay. With that, well, I'll let Lori finish and we'll talk about the piece of legislation. Lori, do you want to talk about what we have coming up that all the employees, including ourselves, will be receiving?
Sure. So we, as you all know, and if you don't know, there are requirements that every organization needs to comply with regarding harassment prevention training. We did that last spring or a little bit before that in person, but because of the recent, what's going on with COVID-19, we've elected to do it electronically through a company called Cantola Training Systems. They've been around for 6 years. They have over 16,000 customers. I've used them in the past, and it's a phenomenal system. It's about 26 minutes. Each employee will receive an individual link. They'll go through the training, and then they'll be assessed with a 10-question quiz. I can, as the administrator of the system, can control all, I'll have the data with all that. I'll know who did it, who didn't do it, what percentage they got. We will determine what percentage is a passing grade. My recommendation is an 80% or higher, and they would have to continue to retake it until they got that score. It's a really engaging training. Managers will have a slightly different version than employees. It will exceed the requirements for federal, state, and EEOC requirements with harassment prevention training.
And that should be
Questions?
coming up, I know we signed the contract with them, when will that be coming up?
So
By the next week or two? or-
We can do it at any point. I signed the agreement yesterday, sent it over. They have me in the system. I can get in there and assign the training to all of the employees at the village. So it's our timetable now.
Okay.
So I would like to do it sooner rather than later and give employees about a 2-week period to complete it.
And we thought it'd be a good time having Natalie Buck come on, then, not just having her train individually, we can train everybody. And unfortunately, we can't have it as a group training, we'll have to do it, electronically, which a lot of companies do, very popular. And maybe that's something we'll continue to do it that way. Especially with, it seemed like last time, it's kind of hard sometimes with the police and the different shifts to cover everybody. This way, electronically, they'll all have an option to do it, while they're here on their shift.
And it's I think, really good, and it de-risks the village of Walton Hills to have all of that data in the system to prove that all of our employees took this training. So I think that's really important.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So which version will council take, the employee version or the manager version?
That's up to the mayor. We
Good
don't
question.
have so many licenses for each. We just have a 60 license, that's what we're paying for. So everyone can take the manager, everyone can take the employee. So,
Yeah. But think about,
Right.
I would say the management one,
I would think so.
you know. Yeah,
So the management one has components of it, if an employee comes to you with a complaint, what you should do with that.
and we'll have to look at that, but whatever you think, Lori, if you think.
I agree with
That
you.
fits the role of, whatever you think of each employee,
Mhm.
who should take it. Go ahead, Lori.
Where will this take place? Here or at our own home?
At your own home. It will be assigned to your email address, the email address we have on record, so your Walton Hills email address.
But they can take it here. I mean, we would want them, we don't expect employees to do things, on their own time. For this training, they can get paid to do it. They can do it while they're here, and I would expect their supervisor or manager to give them that ability to do that, and make time for them. Or if they're on shift, to do that. And there's computers here that they can get to do that. And if not, we'll make one available.
Lori, you said a 2-week time period for them. Is that standard? Because where I work, which I don't think for a 26-minute video would need 90 days. But with my job in particular and all the continuing ed we have to do, we get notifications that we have 90 days to complete. So I'm just wondering, is 2 weeks going to be too short of a time period? Are you locked out of the system then if they didn't do it? Can we?
I would set the expiration date as I went through it, so
Mhm.
that can definitely change. In the past, I've done it in a week. I've gotten 1,000 employees through it in a week. So I guess it depends on your organization and at what capacity people have to do it. So that, again, would probably be your call. I think, Mayor, you had said in the beginning about a month.
Yeah,
I
because I
find
was
that-
used to a longer time, because
Right.
everything at my work my other job is electronically,
Mhm.
Yeah,
but that's
well,
because
that's-
there's a lot of people too. Some people will even be off, more people, But whatever we think, the bottom line is we want everybody to comply, we want everybody to complete the training. That's
Yeah.
so, we'll see. I think when it came to most of our stuff, our employees are pretty good. They get it done within a couple of weeks when it came to the benefits and stuff.
Right.
So I think we'll be pretty good. And we would always, it isn't, if they don't do it, then we'll ask them to
Right.
do it. We want everybody to complete the program.
Yeah.
That's what has to take place. So, if you think we can make it longer, that's.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that if we gave them 30 days, but after 2 weeks, if it's not done, send out a reminder,
Mhm.
this is it.
Yep.
You got 2 weeks.
We can do that.
To
Yeah.
comply, so. Just sometimes, I know it's not gonna be a normal summer, but people may be taking vacation or something like that, from here, so.
I wish we could all have a normal
A
summer.
normal vacation.
Just,
But we'll make the best of it. Everybody will make the best of it. Does anybody have any other questions for Lori? Okay. As far as the legislation, you've seen the legislation, you know the person, you know everything, so I don't know if there's any questions, because we're just, for the special council meeting, we're just having the legislation, and that's the only thing on there, and so if there's any other discussion about the legislation, we can talk about that now too. But if everybody's good with the legislation, then we'll just move on to economic development. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Lori.
Lori.
Thank you.
Is everybody good with the legislation?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
would you want to just touch on, so our residents understand why we're doing this kind of not in a hurried fashion, but on an emergency basis because of Carol wanting to leave and.
Yeah, well, like Lori said, we've been going through the process, and as everybody knows, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we wanted to get the person on board, of course, have a transition with Carol. Carol is working now, still working for the village, and we'd like to have some crossover between Natalie and Carol with the transition. And, but at the same time, we asked Natalie Buck to start the position, so we want to get her on board, of course, as soon as we can, too, because she has commitments and stuff, too. So we decided we're going to have this meeting, the COW meeting, because we have some items to talk about, and have this piece of legislation with a special council meeting, so we wouldn't have to have next week's meeting just for one piece of legislation. We're trying to limit the exposure to all of us, to the guests that come here, not guests, but our consultants, our employees, and all of us. And also, we are live streaming this, which we have a cost here, so we're trying to watch that too at the same time. And hopefully in June, maybe we can go back to our normal way of doing business. We like the idea of having the live stream and everybody being able to see it, but we also like the idea of having a meeting where people can actually come to the meeting. So we want to get back to that normal way of doing things. But right now, of course, we're at the stay-at-home order still, which limits gatherings till 10, and we're going to continue to follow that. So yeah, that's where we're at. So we're having this. Instead of having it for a couple readings, we did discuss it. We had an executive session. The person's been screened, has gone through the background check, the other checks required, and we're ready to put her on board. So that's why we're going to pass it on emergency, or council. It's council's pleasure. I hope you pass. I'm going to ask you to pass it on emergency. I make the appointment, and council confirms it with this position.
Mayor,
Yes.
could you explain, talk a little bit about the pay rate of the new hire and benefits and all that stuff for the people who are watching?
Yes, can I, it's
That's all
public record, the wage amount, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it is a part-time position, and the legislation shows that. There is no benefits. It's 29 hours or less. And then in the legislation, there's a minimum of 1,040 hours. And there is PRS, that would be part of it, and started her in the middle of the scale, $22. So, or it might be one a little bit over. I think it's 25 right now, 24. I know Carol's wage is 24.86, something like that. So, and we talked about that. With that said, she comes with a lot of experience. So we were happy she accepted it at that rate. And she's excited about the job. So I'm hoping everything goes well, and I'm sure it will. And I'm grateful Carol's willing to stay on and help us with the transition. And between her and Carleen, I think we'll have a good transition. So, any other questions?
Mayor, just one more question
Yes.
about Carol. Through the transition, there's no minimum amount of hours that Carol's going to be here. She's just going to be as needed as questions arise. Is that how that's going to work?
Yes, what we're doing actually right now is Lori will she's going to set up an onboarding schedule to get certain requirements met, and then we'll talk to Carol and Carleen, because we want the time that she does spend with her to be productive. And so Carol and Carleen are going to put something together with Lori too. So we kind of hit the big things. We all know if it's a 2-week transition, because we're looking, the legislation and the offer letter was for her to start a week from yesterday, the 18th. Okay, so she would start next Monday. And So we would want that time well spent, and of course, all parties agree that only makes the most sense. Because you're certainly not going to learn that job, or any job, in a short period. It takes years. So it's important that Carol shares that important things she feels are important with that transition. And of course, you know, she's been great with, you know, if there's something we miss after, she's here to help. She's a resident. She's here to help too and stuff. So I think things will go well. So it's just challenging times for that department. And I will talk about we can talk about the recreation, just mentioning it now, and also to any residents that are watching us live stream is under other business, after talking to council and talking to some residents, we're going to talk about the recreation department, you know, and kind of where we're at right now. And also, I did invite Sean McCormick tonight. She's going to talk a little bit about the lake. I thought, well, that would be a good thing. We can put that other on, you know, if she can make it. As of right now, she did tell me she was going to be here. So we'll talk about recreation under other business. So any questions relating to recreation, just hang on to them. That will be our last item before we adjourn and go into our special council meeting. And that's kind of where we're at. So I hope everybody's good with the legislation for emergency. And who would like to introduce it? Gloria, you will? Okay. Any other questions related to that item, to item 4? Do we have anything?
No comments yet.
Okay. If everybody's okay, I'll bring Tom Jordan out. Okay, yeah, thanks, John. If there's anything legal, I'll come and get you, John. Tom, I'll introduce you, just.
Hey, Tom.
How do we know that's him, Don?
I don't know.
I may take this off.
Yeah, you can. I know my glasses fog up, and it's, item 5 is our economic development update. I know just like me and Gloria were talking about Natalie Buck, well, me and Jennifer have been talking about economic development, and we thought it would be the best to have Tom kind of come here tonight and give us an update. He's been doing things with the businesses and other things. So Mr. Jordan is our economic development consultant. I know some of the residents have met Tom at morning meetings with the mayor, other events, and if you have a business, you might have reached out to him. So with that said, Tom, if you want to give us an update.
I'm just taking notes so I can be a little clearer as I speak. Again, my name is Tom Jordan. I'm the Economic Development Consultant.
Might have to be a little louder.
To the village. Over the last, since the COVID-19 pandemic, we've done a variety of things to try to keep the businesses informed, and also with a couple of goals in mind. One is that make sure the businesses are aware that there is assistance available from the federal, state, and local entities. And we've done that in the recommended way was to first start out with the most general and of nature, and that was using mass media to do that. The mass media has been good about letting people know that there is federal money available originally through the CARES Act and CARES Act 2, as well as there has been assistance through the state and generally through the county. The money that's been made available, especially at the start, a number of people had questions concerning it, and there's a hotline that's available to them that we have informed them of. So if they have questions or if they want to take advantage of the resources that are made available to them, and the resources that are made available to them, a lot of them are geared towards trying to keep them in operation by either providing them financial assistance, or there is, under the governor's orders, and under the modified orders, an ability for them to operate safely and abide by the restrictions. So I summarized the funding options that are available, I think 3 or 4 times in one location, and we have it on the village's website. I also have contacted directly, we received a list of the top 20 employers the village has, and we've contacted them either by calling them or emailing them, whatever contact we had, to make sure that they are aware of the resources that are out there. As to what is ongoing relative to the assistance, just to make council aware, in general, the federal aid, the second package, there still are funds available with some narrower restrictions. The county has stepped up. A lot of the county receives about 65% of its revenue from sales tax. And as you know, retail has been closed. So the county acknowledges that the fact that retail in a large part is what they thrive on, and have provided some assistance directly geared towards the retail industry. The state provides a number of the unemployment benefits and have provided additional assistance to individuals and or companies that are taking advantage of the unemployment benefits. So those roughly is the division that's currently out there. The businesses, again, are confused about the number of programs that are out there. We try to simplify it through the summary that is provided. And then also, if you're following the village's Facebook page, as new developments have occurred, we have posted individual programs on it. I would say moving forward, I think the biggest challenge is going to be for businesses to try to operate under the restrictions. And you'll probably see more specific and clear instructions for them, because I think that's what a lot of them are trying to seek. So that in general is what is going on with the businesses currently and the assistance that we're offering them. If you're asking me how the phone calls went with the individual companies here in the village of Walton Hills, a number of them appreciate that the fact that the village reached out to them, but really the mass media and the information that's out there available to them has already been very helpful to them, and in some ways redirecting them to some of the other questions that they may have has been helpful to them. But by and large, they've been appreciative. I know that the mayor in advance of the meeting received an email question concerning the Ford plant. Ford, as you know, listed the property for sale. They entertained offers. They prioritized those offers, and they were working with an individual purchaser for the property. We contacted Ford through their CBRE Ellis broker as recently as 2 weeks ago, and he indicated in a positive sense that, one, if we could wait and see how this develops, and two, that he still thinks that's a possibility with the purchaser that they were working for before the outbreak. However, that purchaser, by the information that we received from Ford, is out of contract because of the time involved in that. And Ford actually has encouraged additional people to take a look at the plant. And I've spent some time with an individual company to take a look at the plant, and it's my understanding that they're physically looking at the plant this week. They asked in general, they're an out-of-state developer, how the taxes work in this area, and we've supplied them with that information, what the zoning requirements are for the individual site, and then also about how the incentive process works both here at the village and statewide. So that information's been provided to them actually over the last couple of days. And we hope to hear from them. We are anxious still for the Ford plant to be developed, but we're given COVID-19 and its limitations on everything, you know, I don't expect a quick resolution to it anytime soon.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you at liberty, first of all, to say what industry or what mode that potential buyer that you are currently working with is involved in?
They do not have an end user for the plant. They are, in most cases, they are typically currently doing it on a speculative basis.
Okay. And out of I know you mentioned that you contacted businesses within the village, and they were receptive. Did any of them give you indications about their business in general as far as how they're doing, you know, financially and, or you know, has business stayed the same, gone way down to?
There's a whole gamut
Yeah.
of responses. I've told Mayor some of the more humorous ones, but you know, there's a whole gamut of people that I am close, I intend to remain close, and I fear for spreading the virus either through the workplace or at home, and did not have any intention of opening anytime soon. On the other end of the spectrum, I have seen companies that work through the crisis, abided by the CDC guidelines, and intend and expand their operations. And we're looking for opportunities in the healthcare industry that the COVID-19 presented to them.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
there is a whole spectrum of just relative to how the contacts are going. Some people, you know, just let their answering machines or voicemail pick up quite a bit of the time. Because a lot of the administrative support people, especially initially, they were kept at home. But they kept the line going. When they did call back, they indicated, yeah, I'm here with my line workers, but all the office workers are at home. So, by and large, you know, actually your finance department probably would have a better sense about who's really still producing out there.
Thank you.
And we will talk about that, you know, our next, with the budget update and stuff. Go ahead, Mark.
The restrictions that you mentioned, businesses, who will submit those restrictions? Federal government or local or state government?
Good question. And there's a whole question about enforcement as well. There are CDC guidelines for businesses to operate under, and the state and local health officials have tried to refine them and try to make them work in different settings because there are different industries that have to, you know, cope with that. What I have found, both with the financial assistance and the guidance on that is coming from the various government agencies, is it takes about a week or two for it to be boiled down, and usually a third party, i.e. a hospital, UH has issued guidance to how to keep business open, and our Greater Cleveland Partnership, our local commerce, has done another version that is a little bit more manageable for a small business to review. But if you expect every individual business to go in the federal guidelines and look at the CDC and try to interpret them for their particular business, it's very difficult. So I'm not sure, there's a variety of sources, and people are doing the best they can with the information that they receive. The city does not currently have a responsibility to, in some ways, enforce some of this. referring a lot of people back to the health department if they ask very specific questions on the guidelines.
Anybody else have any questions for?
We do have a comment. If you,
Okay.
Debbie Kozak would like to know how many businesses in Walton Hills are non-essential versus essential that had to close due to the virus. And she also said, can you speak a little louder?
Okay,
Or
sorry.
you'd like more?
I do not have a count of how many businesses are open or closed. I do remind both council and the public that, you know, as I stated earlier, businesses can opt to close themselves and declare themselves non-essential, and some have. As to essential and non-essential businesses, I don't have that number. I'm sorry if I was speaking a little bit over. I'm a little hoarse this evening.
Tom, when you and myself and the mayor last talked and stuff, I believe you said that you thought the majority of the businesses in the village would have been considered essential. So, I mean,
I do.
without a hard number, but,
Glancing at the top 20 list, I would say most of them would qualify as essential.
so we have.
A lot of construction-related industry, you know,
Manufacturing.
and the supply to the construction industry or the new housing industry and manufacturing. Now, whether they willingly stayed open and
Right.
operated, it was up to them.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Good. Any questions from council? Or any questions? Katie, Angela,
Go
Tom?
ahead.
or- Go ahead. Gloria, sorry.
Question on unemployment, how many weeks they're available to see it? Is the unemployment, how many weeks can it
You know, the final number isn't known. It's interesting you ask. I just contacted Senator Dolan's office, actually, about this issue. Do want to inform the public is that for those people that pre-registered for unemployment benefits due to COVID-19, by the end of the week, they should be hearing something back from the state of Ohio relative to the special benefits that they have pre-registered for. So the state is actually, this week is sort of a unique week. People have been waiting on it. So people have gone online and sort of pre-registered. But the statement I received relative to the length has to do with how long the state determines that the pandemic is determined for. But, and so those benefits are somewhat of a moving target. I do believe they set the start date of eligibility, though, back in April. And I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
Anybody, Katie, Angela, anything to add to
I
that?
think from the calls we had been on, it was April 1st. Like the very beginning of April was going to be when all of that took place.
People were
and took
eligible,
effect.
yeah.
When the CARES Act went into effect, and they gave April as a date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions from council?
If I can comment on unemployment, just because I don't know if Katie's gotten claims in Parma Heights for anything, but like, when the claims have come through here, one for an employee that doesn't work here at all anymore, and one for a current that just got diminished hours, it's one of our drivers. What they're doing with the unemployment to determine the eligibility, even though we're giving their time current to that through, let's say, January through the COVID time, they are actually going a period back, and they're going back into the last quarter of last year to use as eligibility. So a lot more people may end up qualifying overall in the state than may have originally, depending on their hours worked. But they're backtracking on the eligibility period.
Any other questions for Mr. Jordan? Okay. Any other ones there?
No.
Okay. Well, Tom, thank you for coming out tonight. Oh, one
Yeah, no problem. Just in generalities, the next month or two, what do you see yourself working on here as far as, picking up the pieces and moving forward? What's your task list look like?
I am surprised about the recent activity about the Ford plant. I thought it would take a while longer for some more interest to be expressed. So apparently, this particular week, it so happens that people are in town looking at the plant and will respond to their inquiries. My prediction is that they'll have a lot of questions. The prior people that were interested in the plant spent months in due diligence and quite a bit of money looking at the plant from an environmental standpoint, from a constructability standpoint, and from a zoning standpoint. If that process is repeated again by a new purchaser, there'll be quite a bit of responses there. Relative to businesses that are here, so there is, some people may make lemonade out of lemons, and there is construction costs and interest rates are very low, and people may decide to use this time to expand their business, and that is a possibility. And we have had at least one expression of a company that's willing to do that. So there are people that may take advantage of it, and then there are companies that unfortunately may close up. And if they're a tenant, then the space becomes available, and then we'll have to assist in marketing the site. The state is rolling out does this every 2 or 3 years, a new website or a new company that markets available sites in the state. The goal is that there'll be one database for any company that's looking for a site in Ohio, and you put the information in the website and they assist you. So there's a conference call this week about that. That was been going on for a couple of months. So back to your original question, if there is space made available as a result of the pandemic, that we would add that to the state website and see if someone is interested in filling that space.
Thank you.
Tom, I have a couple questions. The potential buyer, new buyer, is this from the original short list?
No.
No, it's totally new.
Correct.
All right, second question is the environmental assessment that was already completed by the previous potential buyer. Is that public record? Is that?
No.
So the new buyer will do the entire project?
Well, I do want to mention a couple of things. Was that Ford is the owner of the site and manages the environmental conditions at the site. And on its own, had their own, Ford as a company, have an entire division that's dedicated to manage their environmental conditions. And then they have subcontractors that were working at the site. They did complete the asbestos abatement in the office portion. There was some abatement of the conditions that were in the plant area. The extent of that was not known to the public. It would become known to the public once they enter what is called the Voluntary Action Program, which is a state program where they voluntarily disclose the conditions. Because of the sale was pending prior, I was not, when I contacted the state EPA in the fall of last year, at that time it was not publicly known. I haven't contacted them recently. But you're allowed to hire an environmental and work on it without creating public record, is the short answer. And Ford, to my knowledge, and from what I've seen, has spent a considerable amount of time and money doing it. I thought originally working towards a closing date, but that has not occurred.
Tom, I know we talked about having, having a planning commission related to something we talked about, the expansion of a business here in the village and a piece of property. Is that something we
Yes.
can talk a little bit
No,
about now? Is that okay with the business?
Everyone's plans.
Well, we can talk
in
about the
flux.
piece of property, correct?
But I will tell, yes, what we definitely can. The city owns a property at the corner of Northfield and Alexander. And I consulted the village engineer, and he indicated that for future use, the city needed a portion of it for future right-of-way. So the city already owned it through a land bank process, and on the Northfield side, the engineer has prepared a plat widening essentially the right-of-way. So by doing that, they are affecting how large a parcel that you have there, and it'll change the legal. And thereby it'll change what the village will be able to sell to a company that may be interested in developing that site. The city should go forward with this right-of-way expansion regardless of any condition. And we hope at the next planning commission that they do that. The plat's been prepared by the engineer, and the planning commission can approve it at that point. If the administration receives a proposal, eventually the transfer of any city property or the approval of any incentive, council would have to review it at that time if the company is still interested in expanding or utilizing that site. But right now, if my request is that the planning commission consider the plat approval, create the parcel, and we'll take it from there and go back to the company and see if they're interested given the market conditions.
So that's, I just kind of wanted to just give, I know Tom mentioned that to me the other day. So we're going to be moving on that. There'll be a meeting set. Kind of wait and see if we would, we might have to have it in this format, or, a regular meeting. But regardless if we're going to have it in this format, we're going to have it. And then allow, the public, the residents to use the same type of
Sure.
method if they have any questions.
The plat is pretty straightforward. It's a slight widening of the right-of-way on the Northfield side. It's existing city-owned property. It's, that intersection, will need work in the future, and envisions that. So.
And it will need to be done. I know we've talked about some of this with council already. We'll have to get everybody back up to speed when it comes time, if the business intends to move forward. But for now, we need to have the planning commission to get that piece of property straightened out. And that, the suggestion is regardless of whether or not they move, we need to get that piece of property separated.
Right.
So that's going to happen soon, the meeting, and hopefully the planning commission will support it, and then we'll bring it back to council. Any other comments or anything for Tom Jordan? Okay.
All right.
And hopefully we'll have more conversation, and we'll, if anybody has any questions for Tom relating to any of the businesses or knows anybody that needs help, Tom's in the journal, his email was in there, your contact, I don't think we put a phone number, we put your email in the last journal there. And you can reach out to him. So. Thank you, Tom.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Tom.
You can send John back in. Okay, we'll move on to item 6. And I'll wait for John. We'll start. That's the budget update. I know we've been talking about that in the last, Mary's talked about that. I'll let Mary, if you want to lead into it.
Well, we've got Report 52 in front of us, and looking at a comparison of the first quarter of 2019 and 2020, it's pacing very close. The numbers are very similar for both first quarters. Year-to-date revenue, we're up about 30,000 from last year. Beginning balance is up $735,000 from the prior year. Year-to-date expenditures are up also, but not by much. And our cash fund balance is up by $242,000. So all in all, we're very close to what we had last year, first quarter. And to go over any kind of highlights or important facts, I'll let Katie and Angela take care of that.
First.
You go, Bianca.
You want me to go first? Sure. Yeah. All right, I know one of the big questions is in relation to the taxes, and I can say that through the month of April, we received March withholding revenues consistently. So companies, if they did shut down for April, this week will be my telltale week for that. We've got people that pay semi-monthly, and so coming up here is the 15th of the month. I've gotten some things in this week, but I mean, we're pretty on pace with withholding tax so far. Mid-April, we were actually up 2.5% overall, but by the end of April, we dropped a little bit over last year just based on the tax extension deadline. So for net profit and individual only, those are kind of lagging behind a little bit right now, and I feel like it's slowed down. We had a lot of returns still coming in once the deadline was put in place, but now the tax preparers and their clients are taking their time a little bit more. So I anticipate that'll be revenue that we will see later in the summer after the July 15th deadline. And I mean, JED income is right on pace with what it has been for the past couple years. So if there's questions about the tax portion, we can take those now. I know Ray had asked about our electric tax. So Ray, in looking back, last year at this point in time, we did show a utility distribution, but the prior year in 2018, we did not receive that distribution until August. So that could all just be a timing thing right now that we have not seen our larger portion of our utility distribution. And then again, I think I answered your second part in terms of where we're at budget-wise. So we've got budgeted $650 for net profit tax, and we're not near there yet. But a lot of our businesses, regardless of COVID-19, take an extension, and we don't see their revenue or their tax return even until October. So we just kind of keep on pace with that.
I have a quick follow-up on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
After hearing from Mrs. Jordan tonight regarding some businesses are just simply closed.
Yeah.
Is there a way to tell, regarding the net profit tax, how much of what we don't see or have not come in is related to extension versus being closed?
When it comes to net profit tax, being closed I don't think is going to be a factor, because you're talking about a 2019 return, which should have been kind of info gathered for it before or as we were starting to head into COVID. So if they're going to have an extension, they're going to probably be taking one every year, and I do have information, typically about who's got extensions. Their companies are pretty consistent about who takes an extension every year. So by midsummer, then I can say, all right, now maybe we're lagging a little behind because these people would normally have a return in, and we haven't seen anything. Net profit was also coming in pretty steadily till the later end of April. So I think it's all a matter of everybody took a breath, and if they didn't have to get something done, or maybe they weren't working, a lot of people that were calling to check on extension, on estimated payments were calling from home. So even the CPA offices and tax preparers were working from home. So the more important thing for us is the withholding. And so like I said, this week I'll be able to determine, as of right now, all of our businesses that consistently send me withholding tax have still been sending withholding tax. I had one extraneous, very small amount last month that came on their form and said that it was put to us, but then put to the resident city, which, as we know, the directive given was that even if you're working from home, the withholding tax will stay with the place of business. And so I kind of tried to leave a message. I haven't heard back yet, and I'll try again. We're talking $228, so I will try again, but I was suspecting that might be why that came across to me that way with no check and just saying, hey, it should go to you, but now it's going here. I haven't had any other issues with that. But going forward, once this all kind of comes to an end, we have been warned that there could be, potential lawsuits for cities to have based on the fact that, the city of, where the business is keeping the revenue versus portioning some out to the cities where they were actually working from home. So hopefully for us, that won't happen. I feel like most of our businesses probably were open a good majority of the time if they could have been, our larger businesses. So I haven't seen a big hit in any of our large companies for withholding yet. So fingers crossed for Friday and early next week when everything rolls in.
I think another point to consider, jumping on to taxes, is that this isn't going to be something that we fully realize until well into next year. So next year, when people are filing their returns for 20, will be where we realize how many people were actually unemployed. Unemployment is not taxable. How many businesses are really have gone out of business or not in operation. So I definitely foresee that our projections on revenues will be down next year. And then jumping into this for this year, we're doing really well so far, as you can see. Pretty interesting, our revenues and expenditures are almost exact amounts for the year. Anyway, but, just a couple key things to point out. She went through the taxes, the property tax distribution, which has our tax assessment. So that settlement has been pushed back until September. That really won't impact us. We know, we're getting it a month later than we normally would. And same with these numbers, like Angela said, we're down, but we knew with the delay in filing, we were going to be down over the next few months. Luckily, we don't have cash flow issues. The only things that are going to be really impacted are revenues concerning anything recreation department-wise, depending on what happens this summer. Obviously, with our banquet hall rentals, they're way down. Don't anticipate that to pick up until maybe later into the year. We are already over our budgeted amount for the traffic citations for the traffic camera, which that was a very, very low estimate to begin with at $150,000. We're at $190,000 through the end of April. Other revenues, we seem to be pacing in just about every department, including Mayor's Court. I'm anticipating next month that we're going to see a pretty major drop just because of the COVID. I know a lot of police departments were encouraged not to make traffic stops, but to be more cautious when approaching vehicles and when stopping vehicles. And we haven't had court for, I believe, the entire month, but they will be picking up very soon. SCMR is another revenue that we're going to have to watch, being the gas tax and the state highway tax. I'm anticipating we're going to see a drop in that in what we receive, but that is yet to be seen. I know many cities that receive large distributions in local government funding will be expecting maybe 20 to 40% drop in what they receive because we receive about $20,000 a year. That's not something we ever factor into our budget as something we depend on. So that's not as much of a concern. And as far as expenditures, those also seem to be pacing pretty much where they need to be. We're doing really well. Overtime, everyone has been doing fantastic. We were lucky with the winter weather that we had. Service department did not use quite that much of overtime. Our salt reserves are good. Police department overtime is $3,000 for the year so far, pretty non-existent. So that's it. The only thing on this report, and I want to look at it, is the 2020 budget showing the 550, that something's not jiving with that number because the budget that was passed was not a deficit, so.
Right, that's what I was questioning.
Okay, yeah, let's
Yeah,
definitely
so
look at it, because
what's
it's been that
going
way
on
every
with that?
report.
So, yeah.
I haven't changed anything in there.
So there's a spreadsheet error, I'm imagining,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
somewhere, but the numbers are all,
Well, I'm seeing, Mayor,
Yes.
Katie or Angela, just things that caught my eye. The income tax withholding, third line down on the revenues, the general fund, budgeted this year 2.6 million. Last year was, actual was 3.199. Can you refresh my memory as to why we have it so low?
well, it came in a lot higher than we expected last year. And then I believe there was someone who moved out that,
I do, yes, I
We
do
were
think we had
taking out of
someone
the
move
factor.
out.
All right.
Yeah. We also have one company that pays their bonuses out to their C-level employees in the beginning of the year. So then last year, that kind of factored in, because I was like, oh, we got a nice chunk of change right now for previous year bonuses in the beginning of the year. I don't know if I've seen that payment yet. I'll have to look for that.
but again, we were just
Yeah.
being
Being
especially
honest.
conservative.
Sure,
with our
which is good,
estimates
yeah.
on
Now,
those.
and also on the expense side, of course, the number, something's wrong in the spreadsheet somewhere, but I'm.
Just on the
total.
the GF report, but if you're looking at,
I'm looking at the expenses from what we passed, or what the final report 52 was before we passed it in December, as opposed to, wouldn't be this one, it would be January's, but
Yeah.
it's almost the same. There's $497,000 more in expenses,
yeah, something's wrong.
so something's wrong, okay. I didn't know if that, I called Angela this afternoon because I didn't know if that included the Dunham Road project and the other things that we were talking about. And this does not, correct? It does not include that,
It does
those
not.
funds
No.
yet. Yeah, so something's askew, as they say, yeah.
So we'll double check it.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
I mean, on the,
It's not, yeah.
As Angela and Katie have said earlier, this is gonna be a topic, we're gonna follow this budget very close, and also the revenues and the expenditures, not only just on our side, but with the businesses too.
Yeah.
So, expect to see Tom Jordan at the next meetings, along with, as Mary has been saying too, we're gonna be dissecting this, because we need to follow it. And we might not really get a good handle, as Katie suggested, until even in the next year. So, but we want to follow it so we're all aware of it. So don't feel this is the meeting of the meetings when it comes to the budget. It's really just opening the door here. We need, not that we don't always discuss it, but things are different as, each week as we move forward here, different than, the predicted. So we're going to continue. Just some, oh yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple more things to note. Katie mentioned that the local government fund, and she's right, we don't rely on that money. The current distribution that's coming from the state itself, as well as the next county one, are still right on pace with what they usually are every month. The vehicle registration tax did go down just a little bit. So those are things we'll keep an eye on, but not things that we count on every year to run ourselves. But just so you have a kind of an idea, we are keeping track of some COVID-related expenses. So right now, we are just between $5,000 and $6,000 total, and $2,400 of that was to disinfect the building when it all first happened. There had been talk for a very long time about the Senate Bill 310 money going to the counties and the very larger cities like Columbus and Cleveland, and how would it get to us? And so we received information the other day. They're going to try to deliver it through the local government fund, I believe. That was going to be probably the easiest thing. But we do know that our apportionment would be that we are looking to get about $23,000. So that should more than cover any of our COVID expenses at that time. And that'll be simply for that. You can't use it for anything but your COVID-related expenses.
Mayor, I think we need to pass a resolution to participate in that. Just not working on it.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
And I just have, Councilman Whedon also had a question related to you know, how our budget was looking in regards to the funding of Dunham Road.
Correct.
So just wanted to point that out. In Angela's response, she did say that we may have to issue a very short-term note. We may not. It's really going to come down to a timing issue with how much we have in cash flow, because we are going to, and it will be right about when we do our normal debt issuance. So it's a maybe, maybe not. It depends on when everything hits. So that's how it is. If anything, it would be a short term, maybe a 3-6 month note, or if anything, something that we could tie up with our other issuance, so that we're not doing multiple issuances and paying those costs twice in a year.
Basically, like a bridge loan type thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Right, we do have to fund it up front. Joe's been checking all that out for us. But reimbursements have been coming very timely. Joe is excellent about getting everything out the door, and the sewer district, the county, everybody's been getting reimbursements back to us fairly quickly. So.
Yeah. So there is a possibility we won't have to take on any debt in regards to it. It will just depend on our cash flow towards the end of the year. So.
Which would be great. That would be-
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, John.
Katie or Angela, either or, under the capital improvements fund, it says streets, highways, sidewalks, and curbs. It's line item 4901-800-555-0000. We have an expenditure there for $428,000, but nothing budgeted for the year.
Did you have Northfield budget?
That's what I saw, that's why I
Maybe
thought it was
that's where
Dunham
we're
and
off.
the other.
I think it's in the, something's in the wrong.
That's what I was questioning, whether that
Yeah,
was
because we had
Dunham
nothing
or.
budgeted for it there, but I didn't know if that had anything to do with possibly paying out for what was left of
I know,
Northfield
there's never
Road
any numbers. I'm
expansion,
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm trying to add something.
or what exactly, so.
Did you find that?
I'm coming to it, sorry. Okay, here.
Okay.
Because we didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, the Dunham Road project to begin with was not budgeted
No, it wasn't.
that
last
hasn't been.
December, because we didn't pass it, you know,
Right.
we didn't have that information.
Correct.
No, and we don't have any
Yeah,
bids yet
so
even
that,
for
that's why I thought that,
And it's
That
much
looks
higher
like it
than
probably
that.
got
Right,
Yeah.
that's 704,000.
right.
Katie, that
Well,
might have been
ours-
our Northfield Alexander, and it accidentally got zeroed out in the budget line.
On the
I'll
other,
have to go back and
for
take a look.
2020, okay.
Yeah.
That's what we've been paying on currently, would have been Egbert Road Force Main and Northfield Alexander, so. So that 400 and some thousand is most likely for those two.
Okay.
We've paid out a little more, we've taken in some reimbursements, but I will definitely look at where the budget number went.
Okay, yes, please.
Katie and I will take a peek and see what else, if anything else was
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Because I noticed that and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think-
Budgeted
Yeah, no.
$500,000.
The fact that there's not even a zero there means I might have accidentally deleted
Yeah.
something.
Deleted, yeah.
Look at March.
I know at our last meeting, I mean, ours was some still related to the budget, but just kind of let everybody know. I know we talked about discussions we've had with the department heads and the departments, and I know we shared this in our last meeting and stuff. Some of the things that the department's budgeted for probably won't happen. Seasonal workers, that $16,000 that is in the budget for the service department. I told Rob that's on hold. He's not interviewing anybody. Our main goal is to, keep our employees going there, so making sure they're secure. So right now, Rob's got 16,000. He's not, we're not, as of right now, and I don't see that changing. And the chief too, and all the departments have been great with, any expenditures. Even if you have that expenditure, that budgeted in your account doesn't mean we have to spend it. If you see something that can wait another year, please do that, and everybody's been very receptive. As Katie said, they've been controlling their overtime and just watching their budgets and keeping an eye on it. So things have been really going very well, and grateful to a very good staff, understanding our situation we're in, with our businesses. stuff as we move forward. So I just wanted to point that out. That's probably one of the bigger items for the service department that is going to take place. Any other? Go ahead.
I have a question. We're on the topic of reimbursements for some of our capital projects. Where does that show up? What line item, when we receive those reimbursements, where does that show up?
When you look each month at the report, if there has been an expenditure, like if you look at March's report, you're gonna see over 500,000 in that line item we were just discussing for streets. When you look at it in April, it will be less. So if it's something that's happened in the current year, we are able to just go offset the original expense. If it's pertaining to a check that got paid out at the end of 19, then we bring it into the same account, but we just can't offset the actual expense itself to that construction company per se, or to Sugar
What
Valley.
account is that?
So you'll see the other one in our, it's still gonna be a 49, here, let me see.
It'll be in
It's gonna be-
4901.
Yeah, it'll be Other
That's
non-operating.
where my question comes in, 4901-440 grants and aids, is that where we're showing? We have budgeted for $849,019, not showing any actual revenue.
Yeah,
for
so
19 to 20. So I'm trying to understand, where does that money, like,
So we didn't end up receiving, or no, yeah, we did not receive, because this initial 849 that you're seeing from the 19 budget was related to the intersection project, but because nothing was reimbursed until 20, and started being paid out until 20, we can't go back and record that as a revenue in 19. So those will be recorded as revenues in that line item, 4901, in 20. But for projects that we're paying on this year in 20, and receiving reimbursement on them, we can go onto that expense and apply that reimbursement so that you're seeing the true cost on the expense side versus having to look at the expense and the revenue and make that subtraction. So if it's in the current year, we can net it out. If the project is in the same year, if it's not, we have to record it as a revenue. I don't know if that makes sense.
sort of, kind of, yeah. So the other question I have, are there still some in 2019 reimbursements still out?
I don't know. I think
Do we know what
2019
amount
might be
is?
wrapped up. I'm waiting for county money on Egbert Force Main, but I think that's going to.
And that was a 19.
So part of that might show up as revenue.
So that'll show up
yeah.
as a revenue for 20, because we can't truly apply it to what we paid in 19. So anything that happened towards the end of the year, it's hard to get reimbursement in that year. It's coming in 20. But like with Dunham, that should all be completed well before the end of this year so that we can receive reimbursement, and then apply that grant money to the payment to show what our actual cost is. So like on the line item, you'll see we paid out $1 million. We get $500,000 back. We apply it to that expense. It will adjust it down, then showing we only paid $500,000. These numbers are hypothetical, if that makes sense.
Any other questions? Okay. Any questions from?
No.
Okay. Well, then I guess we'll move on to the next item, item 7. Other business. Yeah, why don't well, here, let's hang on one second, just because this might help with this topic. We do have Sean here. That's what John's letting us know. Sean McCormick, who's the president of the Lake Clubs here. She's going to talk about the lake. But I just want to touch on recreation a little bit, and then after Sean talks, we can get back to it if there's, a lot of questions related to that. Just talking to Consul and, of course, Gloria and Carlene and Carol relating to this, and then once Natalie gets on board, that will be the first topic we'll go into. is the summer park program. And there's been a lot of questions about that. And as of right now, the park, we are moving forward with it like it's going to take place. And then what I mean by that, Carlene has interviewed the counselors. We have some maintenance things that need to be done at the park, but we feel we can get those things done, of course, with the help of the service department, if we do open up the park. And we want to open the park, with that said, but we do have to follow the governor's order and see. So first of all, we have to be allowed to open it by the state. And then we also want to see if there is restrictions, if we are able to meet those restrictions with the staff we have, the equipment we have, the space we have, to keep the children safe. I mean, and I think everybody in this room feels that way. And I know everybody feels this way. We want to offer the programs if we can. We all know the importance of that. And I just wanted to kind of mention that because with, having Sean come here tonight, I know me and her have talked over the weekend, and we talked yesterday, and the decisions we have to make as a body, it could be a volunteer body, like the group of trustees who are making a decision for a group and they're volunteers. In a situation like this, it's such uncharted water and it's such tough decisions because, we all want to offer everything we can for our residents, and we want to give them the greatest environment. And we certainly, when it comes to kids, we all feel we want to offer them everything we can. But at the same time, we are aware that safety is number one and our health is number one. So I just kind of wanted to just kind of segue into that. And Sean, I see Sean's here. If she wants to come up and she can kind of tell us where the lake's at and where they're at. And introduce yourself, Sean, because I know there might be people watching that don't know, they might know you or not know your position with the lake, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Good evening, Sean McCormick, speaking on behalf of the Walton Hills Lake Club, also a resident at 18850 Alexander Road. Over the past few weeks, we've received a lot of questions about whether or not we're going to open the lake. And I've really just pleaded with everyone that I've come in contact with to just, I don't have an answer. Last Wednesday, we had our trustee meeting. We've been meeting over the internet, over Zoom. And then we had some lengthy discussions that took place throughout the weekend. And a consensus was reached, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. It was Saturday, that really with what we're anticipating as far as sanitation requirements, possible distancing, other regulations that would come into play when operating a water park or a multi-use facility. The trustees don't feel that we can, at this time, meet the general, or what would be expected of to maintain public health safety, sanitation of the restrooms, high-touch surfaces, play equipment, handrails, picnic tables, et cetera, et cetera. Staffing was talked about, the possible need of hiring additional staff to maintain high-touch surfaces, the restrooms. So it was not an easy decision. It's not one that any of the trustees wanted to make, but we will not be filling the lake this year. We will not be opening it for swimming. We will not be turning the water on, so the restrooms will not be open. We are going to cancel our events, and Michelle and I spent today calling all of our rentals. It was important to us to reach out to the people that had already placed their event expectations in us, that we wanted, I wanted them to hear this reality from, us personally today, before tonight's meeting. Going forward, with regards to the grounds, we don't know if we can keep them open, so we're just waiting to see what is said, what kind of rules, what kind of best practices we'll need to observe. And then we do have a small number of people that have given their membership money to us already. And for those people, they'll have some options. We'll absolutely issue a refund if that's what they want. You know, if they choose to donate it, they'll get we have a formal letter that we respond with. I'm also hoping to formally allow them, if they choose, to roll it over into next year. So our plan for this year is to really sit, watch and educate ourselves on what we are going to need to do, and prepare to come back strong next year. Any questions?
I just want to, I know me and Sean talked Saturday, and I'm a big proponent of the lake, and I think like most of us are, and even if you don't use it, we also know the value of it to our Parker program, the value of it to our residents, and a value to the village. We all know it it just does, and being run by a group of volunteers with a lot of responsibility. I think the important thing is not only just for the members of the lake, but for us as residents, council and mayor, is to support their decision. And some people might say, hey, you could wait longer, you could do this, or maybe, but it's a decision, and we're going to face the same decision with the park, okay? And we're going to make the decision just like they did, just by weighing everything out, and there's a lot of sides to look at. They had to look at the financial side, they had to look at the safety side, and of course the safety side outweighs everything. That's the most important thing there. And I just wanted to say, when I talked to Sean and she wanted, I told her how the village views it, and I'm sure I invited her to the meeting because I think council here understands the value of the lake, that whatever their decision is, we're going to support it. And I know I'm going to look at it that way, that they made the right decision, and you have to support it as a community, and it's going to make us want to go there more next year. So we'll look on the positive side and support. I hope they get more members next year, and hope don't lose anybody. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. I don't know if anybody has any comments. I know just talking to Sean and the other trustees, nobody wanted to make that decision. Just like with us with the park, which way we go. I mean, some people feel the state shouldn't open up. Some people feel it should have already opened up. So you make the right, make the decision that you think is right for your entity, and we will support that. And the village is here for help the lake. And we did talk about maybe, depending on how things move forward, that maybe the village will sponsor an event down there, later in the year. We've talked about other things. If things change, maybe we'll open up look at the contract a little differently, to support the lake for this year too. That's just, and I would come to council, and I don't think I think you all feel the same way. The value of it, it's, and if the Parker program opens up, which we're hoping, they'll miss that swimming down there. That's a very, very important and valuable part, and that's why Sean reached out to me just to talk about that. And we certainly don't look at it as a negative, that we don't have it this year, look what no, not at all. Our kids, if park opens, we'll do a sprinkler or something like that, and we'll just tell them, hey, just wait till next year, you'll have your 2 days back. So that's how we're gonna look at it, at least my way of looking at it. I hope we get the support, I know we will, from everybody here along with the village. So anybody have any comments related to?
I've got
Yeah, go ahead.
a comment and a question. Well, first of all, it's very sad.
Yes.
We all support the lake and everything. But you have to, you made the right decision for the lake, for, nobody's certainly going to care. I'm not certainly going to second guess anybody about their decision. But as Tom Jordan, before you weren't here, stated, some people are making lemons or lemonade out of the lemons that they've received this year. I don't know what we do get a financial report from you every year from the lake, but I don't have that memorized. I see it and I look at it and all that stuff. And I know your expenses and revenues are, you're very close. I think you ended up being a little bit down this past year, but your expenses. We'll look at the bright side, if there's a bright side to this. Your expenses are going to be decreased this year, okay? Now, you do have a little bit of revenue, as you said, and I don't know how much that is. Is there, did the trustees talk about, is there money in there to possibly do something this year, whether it's, I know the one year you built the curlicue slide, or something like that, to use some of that money, and I know you're operating on a shoestring, but use some of that money that came in to possibly do something that the lake didn't have in the past, so people would have it in the future or next year. I don't know what the finances look like at this moment, but was there any discussion of that, or just hold them on?
It will cost us about $7,900 to stay closed.
Okay.
It will cost us about an average of $11,000 to $13,000 to open.
How much to open?
$11,000 to $13,000.
Okay.
That's a rough estimate, to get all of our supplies, to get everything up and running, all the maintenance that it takes to start it up. Right now, our bank account sits around $30,000. Things that we do want to accomplish while closed, we do need to redo the waterworks. It's the piping, the PVC is old, and it's been exposed to the elements since it was constructed. And also, we do want to move forward with the liquid chlorine system, which is essentially paid for. We do need to modify the existing guard shack and shore up the floor. So, having this time is absolutely an opportunity to get those two things done at a really efficient cost. It's more manpower than anything else.
Yeah.
On our list of things to do is addressing drainage issues on the far side of the lake where ponding occurs all the time. We don't get the chance to do that in the spring or the fall because of the rain. So that's, we've talked about that. But we do absolutely want to maintain and improve, or at least finish, some of the things that we started.
Great. Thank you.
We did have a comment. Mylan Verzik said that was a tough decision by the lake trustees, but the right call, I think, and very well explained. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for your comment.
Anybody else have any comments related to the lake for Sean?
Brian stole my thunder.
Did he, Denny? Well, I know how you feel about the lake too, Denny. Go ahead, Gloria.
I'd like to thank you and the other trustees for the effort that you make every year. I'm not a swimmer, but I don't go down there and picnic with my friends, so I was kind of disappointed. I thought maybe the grounds would be open, In that case, are you going to put up, the gate in front of no trespassing, so no one comes down there?
Well, we have not decided on the fate of the grounds or the pavilion. Right now, a lot of things are closed. I know the governor is still handing down his decisions and regulations, so we're still waiting. If we can open it, then we have to decide to whom it gets opened for. We have talked a number of times about a gate. The majority of us are actually against it because it would prevent patrolling. And we want the police department or the auxiliary officers to be able to have free access to the grounds to check in. So if I'm in close contact with our insurance agent, who has some very good suggestions on how to properly add signage, how much signage, and what else to add to get the information out to anyone that might find themselves wandering down there. So and a lot of us are just waiting for regulation and legislation and rules and best practices. But if we can, we will. If we can't, we'll, we're not to that bridge yet.
I know you mentioned that you can send out letters for, I've already paid for membership in it. I think it would, to put something in there like what you're going to do now, improvements. Because you can keep my money, I'll tell you now. You can have it. I mean, it's well worth it. It's one of the best things, best kept secrets we have, is that we, all of you that you do I hope we can open the grounds sometime this year. Police picnic or something else. Wear your mask and your gloves. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think
Go ahead.
the saddest thing that sort of makes me melancholy is I don't think probably two-thirds of the people in this village don't appreciate what that lake is and don't know what it is really, and that's sad. That's really sad because you can make so many friends. We first moved in this village, I went down there, and I probably made 20 friends the first time I ever went down there. It's just so great, and I cannot believe people have not supported it, frankly, and I'll continue to support it, Sean. I want to pledge that to you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else have anything? It is sad news. I'm still don't want to accept it, like a lot of us. But we all have to make decisions, and I'll tell you, I commend them too as a volunteer group to have to make a decision like that isn't easy. It's all nice when everything's good and going well, but that's a tough one to make. But I won't be mad at you. I don't think anyone else here will be. But we will actually we will continue to support the lake. We'll support the decision, and we certainly look forward to next year. I know me and Sean talked with the doors not closed, the village, we'd like to maybe do an event, if we're allowed, as we move forward here. We know we've had, the events we have through the contract are very important to the residents, not just the members. It's the contract we have with the lake is open to all the residents, and there's a great value in that, where all the residents have that opportunity to use the lake along with the parkers. So we're looking for that. Maybe it will be like we discussed, maybe a clam bake or something later in the year, depending on the regulations and where the lake's at. So I appreciate you coming here tonight. Shauna, we thought that would be a good idea. The Lake Club can put the YouTube maybe with a link or whatever too on their Facebook, whatever people ask and everything. So
Mylan did also comment that on behalf of the OWL, we will continue to publish and communicate all the lake's information to the village at large.
great.
Thank you.
Sean, do you have any questions for us or anything for the
Just
council?
If anyone does have any questions, just please feel free to email or call. It'll change frequently, I'm sure, but I'll be trying to send out updates on our email blast and then posting them on the Facebook page as we go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay, let me grab John here.
Hate it.
What did I do? You're looking at me.
No, I'm actually I'm looking at the
You were
clock.
like this.
I'm looking at the clock and the reflection of the TV there, and I'm like trying to.
I was
wait a
like,
minute.
uh-oh.
Okay, I have to read it backwards, so
Got
it's
the
not.
clock. It's 2:38.
So it's not 5, yeah, 5:38, it's.
Or 5:38.
it's-
Still under other business, I thought, I know I opened up with the recreation, the Parker program. So where we're at with that, just to make it clear, we're waiting to see. We're ready, we haven't stopped, we're moving forward to open it up, but we have to wait and see. And of course, council's gonna be part of those discussions, along with the recreation committee and then council as a whole. I think it's very important that all of us as a body are involved in this, and even as far as our insurance company, like the Lake did, will reach out and see, because the main objective, as much as we want to provide that program, which we know is a great service to our residents, to the children that attend, safety is going to be the #1 factor. And that's just going to be very important, and so we're going to be making that decision here. I have talked to Carlene and Carol, and when Natalie gets on board, the question is, how far do we go into it? How far, if we don't, if the decision, if we can't have social gathering with larger numbers next month, do we wait till July, or, those kind of things. So they're going to be looking at that. They've offered Carlene had some very good suggestions. Just talking to other recreation departments, and just listening to the governor and Amy Acton, and, about physical distancing and stuff, that, we're willing to adapt the program too, if we have to limit the kids, or, children come certain days and other children come other days. We want to offer that program, and I think I have the support of council that feels the same way. We want to do everything in our power to offer the program, even if we have to adapt. But at the same time, adapting means we have to meet the regulations and the safety of those children with the staff we have and we're not going to compromise there. I'm not going to compromise. I know the recreation staff, along with the committee and council, and everybody in this room, is not going to let that happen. We can't compromise when it comes to the safety of those children. So we're going to have more discussions on it, and we'll wait to see what the guidelines are, and then go from there. So I wish I could be more specific, but I know, we all know that's where we're at. We're kind of in the same position a lot of communities are. Some have already made a decision to close, and a lot of communities that's smaller like us with smaller programs are waiting to see. And that's where we're at right now. I don't know, I know we've talked, Lori, if you have any comments there, or everybody in this room, we've all talked about this. And I know the opinion of everybody in this room was the same, that we will open, but we will not compromise the safety of the children that attend that program. So I don't know if I can explain it any better than that, if anybody wants a comment on anything to do with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a couple of letters from some residents on this issue, and I did tell them that I would read portions of their letter. One was, I would really appreciate it if the topic of playgrounds would be opened up for discussion on the local level. The orders are given by the state, but we need local communities to stand up for local residents. All our children want to do is play and play with other kids. Our local elected officials need to be making the call on local issues, including something as simple as letting kids be kids. Again, we need to get back to something as simple as holding meetings in person. Sometimes a lot more is said with body language than actual words. Sometimes this can be missed when viewing on a computer screen. And another paragraph here. I respectfully ask that council members for the Village of Walton Hills make an easy decision, open the village playgrounds now for children to play on. So much has been taken away from kids this spring. Public, private schools, attendance, homeschool programs that we attend at the metro parks, spring and summer sports, soccer, baseball, outdoor playgrounds, etc. Humans are social beings, and the kids need to practice social interaction with other kids in person. Kids learn by playing. Let the kids learn by playing at the village playground. The decision is not a hard one to make. The state of Ohio is a state of laws, not orders. Open the playgrounds now for the kids to enjoy themselves and learn how to be human again. And I respectfully understand where the residents are coming from, completely and totally with that. But I would like, Mayor, if you could expand a little bit more about how we do have to follow, unfortunately, the state orders. We can't just go rogue, ourselves and open up everything, and how this is mandated to us and our liability also.
Well, I'm going to answer it kind of two ways, because I think, at least this is how I feel as mayor, even if the governor would to say tomorrow that you can open your park, I think this body and myself, along with the staff, has a responsibility to still look in how do we open that park safely, okay? That person made the comment in that letter that the state is a governing body, okay? So, as our governor has done, he's put it in the hands of Amy Acton, the director of the Ohio Department of Health, and has asked for her guidance, because she's a health expert. This is in her wheelhouse right now. It's not in my wheelhouse. I don't think it's in, anybody's wheelhouse exactly in this room. So we have to follow, I feel, and I think I'm speaking for this body, the experts and medical experts. And if they are telling us that for that playground, we need to do this and we need to do that, I, as the mayor, expect to follow that. And I'm going to ask this body to follow that, and our decision to open that park will be based on, can we meet those expectations to keep those children safe? If in somebody's eyes that those expectations or those rules are above and beyond what they feel is a safe environment, I don't care, okay? We're going to follow the experts on that. If we're too safe, that's okay. What we have to be cautioned is not being safe enough. That's where I'm at. As far as we are a government body here, that, John, you could probably comment on it. That's a legal document from what I understand.
Yes, Mayor, you all took an oath to uphold the laws of the state of Ohio as well as the village of Walton Hills. I mean, these are in effect, even though they're orders, they're still laws. Or are they not? That's not for us to make a decision. I think they're laws, in my opinion, so I would not violate them.
Right. And, and that's why the answer to the letters, because everybody in this room understands that most of us are either parents, grandparents, and have children. We know the importance of it. In fact, I always look to the positive of this. It's taken a lot of the children out of that house, and because now the parents and they're spending too much time in the house and it's putting them in the backyard again, which for a lot of us, that's where we spent most of our time, in our backyard, throwing a ball, climbing a tree, just, playing tag or something, So we understand it. I understand, gosh, between the lake and that Parker program, we understand the importance of the mental health and the well-being, the physical well-being of those children. But at the same time, we do understand, as somebody who works in a healthcare facility, we have, Jennifer, you understand, you're a frontline person, that the COVID-19 is for real, and very real. And so we're going to base, I know I'm going to look for council with guidance along with, if the state says open, that's the first thing. Are we going to be allowed to open? Second will be, can we meet the procedures and policies that are in place? And if we can, then we'll talk about opening our park. Right now, we're moving in that direction. We have, they have interviewed the counselors. The counselors know that there's a possibility they have a job and also a possibility they might not have a job, because we didn't want anybody to refuse another opportunity if they could have it. We certainly wouldn't want that. Just like in all our communications, the journal, everything we put out, our webpage, we hate to do it, we hate to be gray, but we've put in there, these things could change because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're living it differently. We are making decisions weekly, monthly, daily, and it changes. We attended a lot of conference calls. Everybody in this room has attended a lot of calls, has done a lot of research based on this, have talked to myself, other mayors. This body has talked to other council people, other officials, people in other positions, whether it's fiscal officers, tax administrator, council members, mayors, law solicitors, and everybody's in the same position we are. Let's wait and see. Let's make decisions here. We're very fortunate after going through our budget, and I know in a lot of ways we just touched on it, that we're financially still going in a very good path. And we're not here tonight talking about cuts. We're even talking about opening our recreation program. So I just want to say to the residents listening and stuff, we want to open the program if we can, but at the same time, our number one priority is going to be the safety of those children. And if I can say this, if the governor says we can't, we won't. I'm certainly not going to go against the governor's orders. We're going to comply with them like we have. We're in this meeting tonight because we're complying with the Stay Safe Home Order, which is not to gather with more than 10, and we're going to continue to do that. Because I feel the reason we're here and not having a meeting with the public and we're streaming it is for our safety. And that's number one priority. Save lives and then save the economy. I mean, I don't think any of us can argue. And gosh, our most valuable asset is our children. My gosh, that's our most valuable asset. So I don't know if that answered their question. They're welcome to call me. And we feel for them. We understand. I understand that fully. They have a very good point, and we want to open that. And, if we don't have the Parker program, we'll talk about, like, the lake opening the swing somehow if we can, and if it can be safe. So that's where we're at. So we'll keep everybody informed. We'll keep the residents informed as we move forward, and hopefully we'll find out more as time goes on here. And we can go, I think because we have a smaller program, we can go a little longer into the summer, or next month. We're in a position. Our event center is in the same position. We have to follow the governor's order there, and with the safety of the people renting it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
When we spoke earlier
Yes.
today and stuff, I just wanted to say for the residents that we do understand the value of the program for the parents too.
Yes.
That really rely on the Parker program during the summer while they need to work. So we know that it's affecting everybody, not just the kids and their mental health and their physical health and things like that too, but we do know that if that Parker program for whatever reason cannot happen, but we do know and understand that puts a burden on the parents as well with childcare over the summer.
And I guess, and I'm glad you continued with that, because this is the discussion I did have with Carleen and Carol, and I'm sure everybody, if we don't have, I guess what we should say, there's going to be something. We do know that if we can't allow a Parker program, or we can't manage it to keep people safe, let's say we can't keep the kids' distance or whatever, we want to have something, whether they put a package together, or we come up with some individual programs, or maybe a couple we have that beautiful event center, we have the other room there, maybe it's a controlled environment, 2-3 kids come up, their children come up there, maybe they come up with their parents. We want to offer something, okay? And so the door isn't going to just, okay, there's no Parker program, there's no recreation. We want to get creative. We have a small program. It looks like we're doing good with the finances in that area. Let's try to do something. Let's get creative. They did a great job with the senior lunch to decide, okay, pull up and we'll hand you lunch. I know we all talked about that, and it was a great program. Some communities, are, like the schools, they're putting, bags together, maybe with a creative thing. Maybe you have coloring contest or drawing contest. You do something that has it. Maybe you have individual. Maybe you have a running race. They come up there, they run, you time them, you have another child. I mean, there's so many different creative things we can do to complement what that resident's saying about getting the children out of the house. And to us, it's just the social gathering and, the sanitation part as the lake, as Sean was talking about, that is such an important piece. But I know we can be creative here. This village is great with that. We got some great department heads, and I think we're going to be good there. We're going to come up with something. It might not be as wonderful as our Parker program. We know that's a great program, offers a benefit to grandparents, to parents, of course, to the children. But and we'll see where that goes. I want to be optimistic, and hopefully we can open it. But if we don't, and I know this body agrees, let's think out of the box a little bit. Let's see what we can do to help with that, to make this summer a summer for our children the best we can. So I know they're thinking about that. I know Carol and Carlene's really been thinking about different ideas. That's really, because that's really her program, is that the Parker program. That's where she spends a lot of her time. And we did talk about that it might be a different Parker program than we're used to. That's another way of looking at it too. So, any other questions related to that, or? Go ahead, Gloria.
I think if you're called a parent, you must be a child. And I feel, the parents have to take the responsibility too, for their children's welfare, for getting out and doing things, not just look to us, the government. I happened to be on the computer one day and I saw that the people went in their backyard and they took stuffed animals and they put them in the trees. They told the kids they're going on a safari. There's so many things that you can do. You're the parent. Take the lead, take the responsibility to finding something for your children to do. Go for a walk with them, there's other things. When we were kids, I remember sitting on a picnic table and the kid next door, and we were a pirate ship. There's so many things. You've got to use your imagination. I think the kids are too much, with their fingers like this, and they forgot about imagination. The mom and dad can get out there and play ball and stuff, and brothers and sisters. There's a lot to do. We all have to get through with this, but safety is first, and that's what we should be looking at. I'm sure you can go on the internet and find many ideas of what you can do to entertain your kids. A friend of mine, we just finished the Easter basket project for 2020. We did 300 Easter baskets that we made with candy and little toys and stuff that people donated to us. One lady gave us $500, can you believe that?
Wow.
Another lady, a villager of this village, gave us $200 towards that Easter basket fund. And we made the baskets and we gave them to the Hunger Center, and they, sent them out to the kids. This was a crazy time for everybody, and Easter was a nightmare. So I'm thinking there was a lot of kids with chocolate smiles out there that got some candy out of this. So there could be something like this, that we could create a little package that the kids have with crayons and a coloring book or something, to keep them busy. But outdoors, jump rope, whatever, we put in there and that. But, I think it's parents' responsibility too. You want your child safe. Keep them in your own backyard and have some fun with them. I think this is a great time for communication with the family. I think they've lost touch with the family through all of this, and it's made them closer, I think. So things will get better, and as you said, Mayor, we're forward thinking. The door has not shut. It's open a little, and it'll open wider for things that we'll be able to do. So just be patient, and most of all, be safe and wait and think about your children. Thank you.
Gloria, with that said, the only difference is in Walton Hills here, which makes it very tough, being semi-rural, our kids, if they're, let's say, they don't have a brother or sister or a neighbor, the park and the lake brings them together. That is one of the toughest parts about that, but because I agree with you, you can do a lot in the backyard and stuff, but I know, that's, we don't have the sidewalks, we don't have that, so the friendship and the thing, and that's just, but no, you're right, and we're gonna think out of the box here, and let's just be optimistic and see how we move forward here, and see what we can do with our Parker program, see if we're gonna be able to adjust. We are gonna make every effort to open it. I'm just gonna end with that, but if it does open, it's gonna be safe, and it's gonna be a safe environment for those children. If we cannot meet that, I am not gonna give my seal of approval, and I don't think anybody in this room would either. So that's gonna be our main, when we talk about it, the first thing we're gonna talk about is the safety of those children when it comes to this COVID-19 or anything. Is that swing safe like we do? We review that, is that, and this is something a little, we can't see, and so we have to rely on sanitation and stuff, so. But thank you, yeah, any other comments on the recreation program or anything related to that as we move forward here? So we'll just keep everybody informed, and any questions from any residents, Angela?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I did just want to let council know that I had a voicemail from a resident that was asking if the village was going to be charging each household $1 per directory to help defray the costs. I did tell them, I left them a voicemail message back saying at this time, no, we weren't, considering that or anything, but just to make you aware that the question was asked.
First, I think we've all heard of
Send
it.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
We've gotten, on that note, I'm sure everybody in this room's we've gotten positive feedback on it. Appreciate the owl doing a delivery of it. If anybody knows anybody that didn't get any, I think we do have extras. We would like everybody to have one in their house. We think it's important, and came out nice. So happy to have it out. And I know the information committee and council worked hard to get it out, cut corners to work it in the budget, and it came out to be a nice product still for the residents. Any other comments? Otherwise, I think we're ready. Any comments from any residents? Any?
Mayor, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There was a couple other things I wanted to mention, that this week is Light Ohio Blue Week.
Okay.
And that is National Police Week. It runs from May 10th through the 16th. National Police Week with the Light Ohio Blue is asking residents to have at least one exterior light outside, a blue light to show support of the safety forces. And it culminates on Friday, the 15th, May 15th, with National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And this is to show support of the currently serving law enforcement and to honor the fallen. That was first enacted back in 1962 by President Kennedy. So it's been a long-standing thing, and in these times, National Police Week is always the week before National EMS Week, which is next week also. And I think just with everything that's going on, it's important to remember everybody that's out there doing that.
And we can put that on our Facebook, you know, we come up with a little blurb, we can put that on the Facebook or the webpage. Council, anything like that, you know, that you feel is important, especially during this time or any time, you know, let us know and put something on related to that. With that said, you know, in the Journal, we did post Memorial Day. More and more communities have canceled their Memorial Day. We received a letter today, I did. I just opened it up before this meeting from Bedford that they canceled the parade. Not parade, I shouldn't say parade. Their service, not a parade. It's a very serious parade, and not parade, but I guess it is, but it's a parade, but it's not the parade where candy is thrown out. It's probably I think, one of the nicest memorial parades in the area. It really honors the men and women who have given their life for this country. They will not have it. They are asking for a donation, I think, for flowers to put on all the graves. If council's all right with that, and as long as it's legal, I'll talk to Katie and Angela and John to make sure if we can give a donation. I'm sure everybody in this room is okay with that. With our Memorial Day, you know, as of right now, we can't gather. My plan was to have it outside there and just put chairs far from each other, you know, at least, you know, more than 6 foot and stuff, but it's leaning more the other way. So we did come up with an idea, maybe having a resident. I do have somebody in mind where we would just film that person talking about Memorial Day. I would just open up with it, and these could be done during the week, put them together, and then get like a flag raising, you know, a generic flag raising, and have that, and just, you know, put it on our web page and our Facebook page. I don't want to just cancel the program. To me, I think it's very important that we honor our veterans who gave their life for this country, especially during this time. And so we're still putting something in the works. I think we need to do something. And if council, you know, if we decide to have everybody, you know, whether it's just saying something, a lot of communities are doing something. So they're canceling their big thing, but they're going to try to do something. We're just not going to ignore it. So just kind of want to tell you where we're at. If we can have it, if things were to change, I'd love to have it. We do know it wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't gather in a community room. It would just be an outside service, and then everybody would go home, because we know we're not going to be able to gather like that. But right now, I think we're going to put something together and maybe just stream it on the web page and Facebook page. That's kind of where we're leaning. So, anything else before we ask for an adjournment?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Just briefly, and I should have brought this up during the finance stuff.
That's
but
okay, we can go back.
It just kind of, didn't pertain to anything we were talking about, but it does pertain to finances. As far as, we're in receipt of 2 memos from Don Sheehy for the road program. One for the 2020 program and one for the 2021 program. And this is more rhetorical, I guess, because I don't expect any, you know, answers or debate or anything. I just wanted to throw it out here for tonight, because I know we're going to have to talk about this sooner or later.
Correct.
We've got the 5/7 of 20 memo. Mr. Sheehy talks about crack sealing of Egbert Road, and our cost is $15,000. And then asphalt spot repairs to Dunham and Walton, that's $35,000. So that's a cost to us of $50,000 that he wants us to expend. I don't have any problem expending that to do those two roads. The 2021 program, I have to bite my tongue a little bit. I know that is in coinciding with the water main replacement on these roads, which then would require resurfacing. Hickory, Chestnut, and Tulip development, our cost, and for the people out there, we all know that these are interior roads, so we do not get any funding for that. That every penny comes out of our coffers. That amount is $343,000. Conley, which is Egbert to Rotary, is $147,000, and then Rotary is $125,000, for a grand total of $615,000 next year if we were going to go ahead with those projects. That's going to be a tough nut to crack, I think, depending on what happens here this year with this overall budget, which remains to be seen. My point is, and again, it's a rhetorical question, kind of, I don't know if the water department is still planning on doing all these projects because of you know, the current situation or what. I don't know if Mr. Shee has reached out to you to discuss some of this, or if you know, depending on our budget next year, can we delay one of these roads or one of these projects, or do we have to do it, or we lose it, you know?
Right.
So that's something, you know, that's very important that we need to think about and get some more information on.
When Joe and Don sent that to me, I wanted to forward it. I asked if there was any urgency on any of that, and he says, no, you know, nothing we had to talk about, but we are going to have to breach that, you know, and talk about that. As far as, you know, the small ones, the crack sealing and stuff, you know, we should probably, like you said, the $55,000. Dunham Road, that money there, that's because we entered into like a contract. Armin Budish even signed that along with myself. They've said the funding is there. We talked about that the other day. You know, could that go away? And Joe's answer was no, because basically we have a contract. As far as the water main and stuff, that's something we're looking into too, to see where that's at. And they have, you know, sewer district, the water department, they have pretty good funds, at least from what Joe is telling us, so he doesn't think there's a problem. It's just a matter of whether we want to do it, and you're exactly right. So those are things, and that's why that is for 21. You know, Dunham Road's a big enough project right there.
Right.
But I'll probably, depending on how June goes, bring Joe or Don, probably Joe in to discuss the road program and discuss those projects and how we should proceed, you know, financially and you know, where we're at, so. But yeah, good point, Brian.
Thank you.
You know, hopefully we'll have some good news here with Ford soon too, you know. It's not to keep throwing that out, but it's nice, like Tom said, we're happy to hear there's some more activity there. In a very positive way. I know Tom's a little more reserved, I'm a little more, I don't know, maybe I'm too optimistic, but we're hearing good things. So so hopefully that discussion, Brian, in either fall, we'll have a better handle on COVID-19. Maybe there will be a vaccine, and we'll also have something good to talk about with the Ford plant. So, but yeah, the road that's going to be discussion. That's going to be our next, moving into June here. And talk to Denny. We'll get the road committee.
That's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah. So we'll have a meeting with Joe, with your committee if you want, or you call them and see how, get us up to speed here, and we'll help with that and stuff. So, any questions? Anything else? Just any open? Okay. Can I ask for an adjournment from this COW meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adjourn the COW meeting of May 12, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilperson Linville,
Yes.
Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Terlowski.
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Spitznagel.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned at 9:10. Okay. Does anybody need to take a break, or are you ready to go into our special council meeting?
Well, that just rolls.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Walton Hills Special Council meeting of Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 9:10. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following Substitute House Bill 197 provisions that relate to public meetings and hearings during this COVID-19 pandemic. Okay.
Councilperson Linville,
Present.
Brenner Miller,
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Terlowski.
Here.
Whedon.
Yes.
Spitznagel.
Here.
All of council present, along with our fiscal officer, Katie Iconis, our tax administrator, Angela Revere, and our law solicitor, John Montello. I just want to add just one thing. We don't have to really change anything. I'd just like to take, we don't have it on, take a moment of silence. Well, I got some good news. We don't have to take a moment of silence for any residents. So I thought that was fantastic. We have no deceased residents. I'd just like to take a moment of silence for our country, our first responders, and all our healthcare workers. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Benjamin Blondin said, "Good evening, hope everyone is well."
Tell them thank you. Wasn't that, you got to admit, the picture of his daughter? Yeah, they don't have that on here, but we can do that. Pledge of Allegiance. It's not. Usually we don't have it on the special council meetings, but do we want to open it up? I have no problem with that, Ray. I think that's a good suggestion. Why don't we? Let's go to have our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I do, and before we go into, because I know the piece of legislation will be last thing, I kind of wanted to put it in there. I know we talked about the court a little bit, the traffic court and stuff, but I do have a thing from Nancy, our clerk of court. And so for the month of April, the Walton Hills Police Department issued 11 citations in the month of April. The predominant violation was domestic violence, with 3 citations written, followed by 2 citations written for assured clear distance and 1 citation for speed. I know Katie touched base on the court receipts being down, We didn't have, as John knows, we didn't have, court was canceled for April 2nd, April 16th, and May 7th. We're hoping to have court this month on May 20, is it 21st, John?
A week from Thursday, so, yes.
May 21st. And our court receipts are down. Of course, we have, haven't collected some of that there. But we're hoping that comes up. I'll give you the current period, and this was for April. Our court receipts were $2,246.47. Year-to-date, we're at $71,593.37. So that puts us, year-to-date last year was at $107,044.71. So we're down, about $30,000, a little more. But that's not final. There's still a lot of things out there with the court that, as we move forward here, we're getting back on track.
Mayor,
Yes.
just a general question. Have we had any, maybe Mr. Montello can answer this, have we had any tickets so far with our new, when we changed the law with that cell phone distracted driving?
I'm not aware of any. I think they were, the police have only been handling major issues because of safety concerns with the virus, so not that I'm aware of. I don't think they would take the risk of catching the disease for a cell phone issue. That one good thing is there hasn't been many people on the road. And that kind of goes into her gas tax thing. That's probably why she's expecting less gas tax, because nobody's been on the road for a month or two here. But, so that's one good thing. But I'll certainly tell the chief to keep an eye on it as he starts ramping it up here, as we determine that it's safe to do so.
With that said, I didn't have Nancy's, usually she'll give me that report with, I don't have that, but I can request that from her. I know she did give, because I didn't read the whole thing, I just read what I normally should have in your box. That complete report she gave, it kind of outlines where we're at a little better. So, and I can get that, Brian, they have that. No, I know, just curious, and that's like you said, John, I don't think there is anything, and I think that's why there was very few citations. As you can see, 11 in the month of April. Just to kind of give you an idea, I did bring, I have it here last month. Let's see.
I would say this, Mayor, that, hey, anybody out there, you better slow down, because we're going to start writing tickets pretty soon.
That's right. You need to go
Not for the money, revenue part of it.
That's
the
right.
Safety issues. I noticed even today, there was a lot more people on the road than there were the last few, yesterday.
Even through the pandemic, you got to abide by the laws to keep everybody safe. Last month in March, we issued 112 citations versus 11 this month. We followed the governor's and the state's guidance when it comes to that. We wanted the reason is we wanted to keep our police officers safe, less exposure. But at the same time, they have issued tickets because we're seeing people take advantage of the situation. You probably have seen some of that with the Ohio State Highway Patrol pulling people over, going over 100 miles an hour. And, safety is the #1 issue. But the safety of our first responders and our police officers is important too. So that's why you'll see the difference there.
And it's
112.
our department, Mayor, it's all communities surrounding us as well.
Yes.
Everywhere in the state, I would imagine.
Right, but as we open up,
Country.
we're going to go back, things, so we're about, we're 101 less than for this month. And our officers have all been safe, we got good things. And with that said, before, I did have conversations with Angela Hammonds, the executive director of Walton Manor. I know we had some questions there, and Walton Manor has been COVID-free.
Excellent.
residents and employees. So I thought that was great news to share. They've done a great job. She's continuing to bring the rating of, she shared that with me. She wants to, I might have her come to a council meeting when the time is right, just to kind of share. She was at a mayor's morning meeting with the mayor, and she did share that she was brought in to help bring up the they call it a star rating they have, different than the hospitals, and they're achieving that. And that was great to hear, because they're a good partner in our community, and it was great to hear that everybody's safe over there. And I did call her today. She was already gone for the day, but her assistant was there, and I asked her how they're faring, and she said, Mayor, we're faring the same as when I told her my conversation with Angela, and she says, we're very proud. We have no residents and no employees. So that's a very nice thing to hear that. They're doing it right. So, are we ready to move on to the resolution?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do you want me to read it?
Yes, we've talked about it. We're ready to go.
Okay. I'd like to introduce Resolution 2020-9, a resolution confirming the appointment of Natalie Buck as the part-time Community Life Recreation Director for the Village of Walton Hills, Ohio, for the period beginning May 18, 2020 through January 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Did you say for suspension?
Or suspension.
Second.
Councilperson Linville,
Yes.
Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Terlowski.
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Spitznagel.
Yes.
Okay, suspension passed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of Resolution 2020-9.
Second.
Councilperson Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Terlowski.
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Spitznagel.
Yes.
Linville.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2020-9 approved. Thank you, everybody. Anything, no? Any other comments before we ask for an adjournment for the special council meeting? Okay, do we have a motion for an adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the special council meeting on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020.
Second.
Second by Denny Linville.
Councilperson Allen.
Yes.
Terlowski.
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Spitznagel.
Yes.
Linville.
Yes.
Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Special council meeting of Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, adjourned at 9:21. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, residents.